Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a live discussion review of the SpiderMan PS4 game. I cleared it the other day and I was literally blown away. But to do a nice, awesome discussion, I had to have someone that I can call a great friend that also played the game and wants to share his thoughts on it. And that is Boomstick XL, Double Barrel Gaming. If you know his YouTube channel, I highly recommend going over. Link is in the description. So, Boomstick, what do you like? What do you think of the game? Your thoughts and like stuff like that.
Well, listen. Well, first of all, dude, thank you for so much for asking me to be here. Obviously, you've been on numerous shows of mine, and it was an actual honor to be here today when you asked me, should we talk about Spider-Man? Because to be honest with you, I've played. I mean, obviously, you know, I support all three consoles, and
Yeah.
when you do that, you easily are whisked away in multiple levels of gaming because obviously you have three consoles to support, so you're going to play games on all three. So in 2018, I've had a real great time playing games. But I'm going to say this, for me personally, Spider-Man is probably the most fun that I had in 2018 when it came to gaming as a whole. I mean, there's this particular game fills a niche for me and hits a lot of check marks. First of all, it's Marvel, which is one of my, out of the two major, publishers, obviously Marvel and DC, Marvel is my favorite. Spider-Man happens to be one of my all-time favorite characters. And of course, Insomniac Games, they don't really need an introduction. They are who we thought they are, and they have crafted something that, in my opinion, has logistically redefined what a Spider-Man game can be. Because obviously, we had Arkham, and you take nothing away from Rocksteady. They are incredible developers. I know that we're going to get an announcement next year on what they've been working on. I cannot wait for that. But something about this game, it just screams fan service. And I know we're going to get into graphics, and I know we're going to get into the story and the collectathon part of it, of backpacks and side missions. But I have to tell you, overall, if reviewing this game, and I did on my channel, I threw a score out there, I would, and I still say strong to the 9.0 out of 10. I think this was a masterpiece.
Wow. That's a pretty high score, but like after playing the game myself, like I think the game fully deserves it. One thing I want to say early on into the show is later on we are going to be getting into spoilers because there are a few things that I want to talk about personally that I think they made some really bold choices with, and I think I have to appreciate that, and I really want to talk about it. But like I want to get into when you first start playing the game. You're treated with an amazing first mission, and the first thing that you'll notice is how incredible the graphics are in this game. I'm not going to get too much into the whole shenanigans that went on with the whole Puddlegate situation, where
Nonsense.
where people were complaining about a graphical downgrade because there was a screenshot of the E3 gameplay that they showed of Spider-Man. And in it, there was more puddles, and it looked a little bit more detailed compared to the final version of the game. So there was a whole incident, people going crazy over the internet, shouting at them, saying that this is a downgrade. People don't like when games get downgraded from E3 to release. And after you play this game, the first thing you see is the graphics, and you are instantly blown away. The character models are on point. They look fantastic. I really liked how Peter looked in this game. Mary Jane. I just really liked how they went with this, and the fact that Peter Parker is more of an older Peter Parker, not a young one. Especially
Right.
if you're watching the new Spider-Man, where they're going back to him being a kid, a teenager in high school, to now we have this version of Spider-Man, where he's already done all that. And he's out looking for a job. Well, he has a job. So he's already through school. He's been Spider-Man for a few years. Like, I just really like that because we've heard and known about, like, everyone knows Spider-Man's origin story at this point. Like, I'd be surprised if you were to say to someone, do you know Spider-Man's origin story? And for them to say no, like, I'd be surprised because there's been already, like, in my lifetime, 3 different movie versions of Spider-Man. You know, they don't really stick. Hopefully the new one sticks longer than, like, the last few. So yeah, graphically, this game looks amazing. The story change that they went with Peter Parker being older and more experienced Spider-Man right off the gate was a great setup for a game. So the gameplay is very similar to the Batman Arkham games, and for someone that likes superhero games, and I've played 2 of the Batman Arkham games. I didn't play the last one. It's in my back catalog because I just didn't really like the open world aspect of that game. I didn't find that as interesting. But graphically, the gameplay is the same type of beat 'em up. You get your counters. I think it works perfectly well with Spider-Man because, you know, he has his spider senses. So whenever his head gets a little tingling thing, you know, to press Y. And the fluid system, like just how fast and how, like, the animations for all this movement and being able to swing around while you're fighting, I think it's fantastic. I enjoyed this system a lot more than I enjoyed it in Batman Arkham, which is how it should be. Because, you know, if you're gonna do something similar, you're gonna want to adapt and change and evolve it from when it was last seen. And I just think the speed, the animations, everything gelled really well together in this. What did you think of the gameplay?
I thought it was perfect because, like you were saying, the fighting is a big part of the game, and obviously with Spider-Man as a character, his fast movement is required to be authentic, and they nailed it. When I say they, of course, I'm talking about Insomniac Games. You know, and I said this on tweets, I said it on my channel, I said it on the opening. This is a masterpiece. This is something that is definitely a crown jewel in the PlayStation 4 crown. I'm going to say this. It is, you know, good on Sony for locking down this as an exclusive, because obviously Insomniac Games, though they have in the past worked with Sony on a PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and everything going forward, they are a multi-plat developer because they did make Sunset Overdrive. But man, I mean, this is, you know, I always really enjoyed them as a company, but I put them into AAA status. Now, in regards to the movement, now I've read and I've actually heard some people say that they didn't like. Some people love the swing like me. Some people like I couldn't figure out, and I was running up buildings. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought that the web mechanics swinging around New York City was more than perfect, because I never felt out of control of Spider-Man. I always felt that whenever I pointed in a direction, that's where he went. I was able to pick up breakneck speed with him, trying to get to, you know, especially in the timed missions. I thought that all his movements, especially when he's fighting, were like spot on. Because, you know, there are points that will light up with a white circle that you can just hit the double triggers, and he leaps to that, and then as soon as you hit that, you can jump and attack. I mean, I was taking on, you know, sometimes as much as 10, 13 different bad guys at once, and just not even getting touched. And you know, with all of these kind of games, there are things to unlock that help you fight better. But I got to tell you, the movement was perfect.
Yeah, like, that's another thing I just want to say. Like, if this isn't your first, like, if you played previous Spider-Man games, like, this has probably been touched on, and probably every single person that talked about this game has to comment on how it feels to be Spider-Man. And I cannot say this enough. Like, this game captures it to the T. Like, you feel like you're Spider-Man. Like, just because of the movement system, it's just so good. It's so fast. It's so fluid. Like, and how it feels when you're swinging around the city. Like, some people will be like, "Oh, you'll get bored in a few minutes." After 20 hours plus, I'm nowhere near bored.
Yep.
Like, it just is. never fast traveled. I used to fast travel once in the game when you had to, and other than that, I just went. I went everywhere. Every time there was a mission that was like probably on the opposite end of the map, I still didn't fast travel because I was just having so much fun flying through the city while swinging through the city. And you know, you always get those encounters. Oh, there's a bank robbery or some like a bomb. Like I'd always stop because I'd be like, Spider-Man wouldn't ignore this, so I can't. It's like these people are counting on me, so I'd always like get distracted, jump down, save the day. Like there's no Spider-Man game that already exists that captures the feeling of being Spider-Man better than this, because this is, you can't capture it anymore. Like you are Spider-Man in this game. Like it's fun, it's fast, it's fluid. The gameplay is amazing. Just the whole, like I love being able to shoot people to like walls with all your gadgets that you have, like instantly knock them out. And like if your version of Spider-Man is from a different game, a different suit, like they really went above and beyond with the amount of costumes that are in this game. The fact that you don't have to buy a single one of these as a microtransaction, as DLC on day one, all of them are in the game that can be unlocked just by leveling up. Yes, there are certain costumes that you either have to get all the backpacks that are spread around the city, but there's not that many. There's only like 3 costumes, I think, that you have to do specific things for to get them. Other than that, every other costume you get by leveling up. And you literally level up by completing a story mission. I don't think there was a time where I completed a story mission where I didn't level up. Like, like leveling up is so easy in this game. You get so much experience. It's just insane. And with any other type of like RPG type of element while you level up, you do have a skill tree where you can level up your web swinging, your combat and stuff like that. It's not too advanced. It's pretty basic, but it does help when you're going on later in the game to give you some different options so it doesn't get stale. You're getting some new abilities and new. One of the levels that you get to pick when you do it is to do tricks while you're swinging, and I had a lot of fun with this. I don't know if you did it when you were playing Boom, but when you press, I think it's triangle and circle. When you're swinging around, you'll start doing backflips and stuff. And I just thought
it's
that was
actually that's one of the trophies I actually have to still get. It's crazy as much time as I put into it. I didn't really mess too much with the tricks portion until I realized that there was a trophy I have to get, and I'm going to probably bang that out today because it's an easy one. It's I believe it's do four tricks before you're hitting the floor. So that's pretty easy to do. I mean, especially because you can get so high. I mean, obviously you can go as high as the Avengers Tower, which is one of the biggest buildings in the game. And it's just the scope and scale of New York is incredible. It really is, because it's not just Manhattan you're flying around in. You know, I mean, that you're swinging around in. It's literally New York City, and it's fantastic. It's so detailed. Like I said, the suits, I'm going to say this. This is what I would call fan service to the max. I've read Spider-Man comics since way back in the early 70s, late 70s, early 80s, because I've always been a big Spider-Man fan, and I collected the comics. And to see a lot of these classic suits, especially something like Spider-Man 2099, a lot of people don't even know that he existed. And that wasn't even Peter Parker. And then, of course, you see, they're like the Iron Spider suit, and you have, of course, the tentacles that he had from Civil War. It's just they poured so much fan service into this game, and I don't know the exact amount of the suits. I think it's somewhere near 20, if I'm not mistaken. It might be a little bit more. Like I said, this particular game is what I would consider like a collectathon kind of a game. Like if you like Assassin's, if you like Assassin's Creed and you like doing all the side missions and getting all the all the points to, to level up your character, this is for you. And I'm also going to finish off with this. If you don't have a PlayStation and God of War and already Detroit Become Human did not make you buy a PlayStation 4, this game should and will make you buy it, because it is just phenomenal. All I have is raving reviews about it.
From what I've seen, I know you had a particular suit that you loved the most throughout your playthrough. Anyway, I seen your screenshots.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to say that I probably, okay, now if you remember a company called Beanox made a couple of Spider-Man games, and they were fun. I really enjoyed them. But they in one of these games, I believe it was Shattered Dimensions. They had a dimension with a Spider-Man Noir, where he had like he was dressed in black leather rather than, you know, the regular traditional Spider-Man suit, and he had goggles on, and it was very steampunk-esque, if you will. And that suit happened to be in this game, and you know, each suit does give you an ability. I want to make sure that everyone knows that as well. And the abilities you can swap out. So if you pick a particular suit that you don't like the ability, you can always swap it out, which I think is ingenious. But the Noir suit was my favorite, especially when you had like the night missions, because you could skulk in the background in the dark and they wouldn't see you. But I thought, I mean, just the detail, especially in the photo mode. And I also, you know, got a lot of shit for this, because, you know, I made a tweet that, you know, oh, this photo mode is so fantastic. You know, it's something that is, you know, they have, you know, a step up on the Xbox. And a lot of people took it like, well, what do you mean the Xbox doesn't have photo mode? Yes, we do. It wasn't meant to be like that. Their photo mode in their particular games
are built in.
Yeah, and especially in their single player games is such a key difference. Now, yeah, sure, some Xbox games have it. Forza's all have it. Tomb Raider, the new one, has it, and it's great. But Sony's first party games all have this photo mode. And what you can do in this particular photo mode is literally the most amazing thing, because you can add stickers and you can actually design a comic book cover if you wanted to. That's how many different you know, options there are during this particular photo mode. And again, it's one of those little, you know, niche additions to a game that a lot of people will not take advantage of, but you should, because you know what? Some of the, I mean, you saw some of the pictures that I've taken, and they are just, those are from the game. That is just hit the well, it's not the guide button, but hit the options button on the PlayStation 4 controller. It takes the picture, you go right to town. It's such an amazing feature. Again, it's one of the big highlights for me outside of the game was the photo mode.
Yeah, like, it's also a great feature to have in a game, because in this day and age, everyone is on social media, everyone is tweeting, sharing things. So when you have an amazing looking game like Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4, with the option to take these incredible screenshots, just goofing around, doing incredible things, showing off your favorite suit, like, this spreads more awareness for the game. More people will share, more people will tweet, more people will talk about it. And more people that way would want to get interested in the game. They probably didn't know about it. They found out from screenshots. And then they look more into it. And then what they know, they buy a PlayStation 4 and get Spider-Man. Like, this is an amazing feature for games to have in this day and age, because it just helps spread awareness, gets people talking. And, you know, it's just a good feature to have overall, because you can get lots of enjoyment just going to really beautiful locations and just making some crazy screenshots with the features that they allow. I'm gonna just finish this up with this. I don't think it's meant to be, but it's definitely the greatest marketing ploy I've ever seen, because, you know, obviously they make this so you can take pictures and you know, of your game and enjoy it even more. But when, you know, being that social media is so advanced in 2018, you know, everyone is tweeting these things out. Everyone's posting them to Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram, right? Like, hey, check out my latest Spider-Man picture. And it's literally free advertisement. Thousands and thousands of people are doing this, and it's free advertisement. Again, it's just ingenious. Yeah, like if they ever make a second one, that I'm sure this is a feature that will definitely carry over with improved features. So I just want to talk a little bit about the story overall. We're not going to be going too much into detail for anyone that is watching that doesn't know anything about the story. We're going to keep it kind of vague. We get more into spoilers later on in the show. But I'm assuming, like I know already, that you were pretty hyped for this game. I'm pretty sure we both were.
Yeah.
We both were expecting things that'll live up to the hype. And overall, what did you think of the story? Did it manage to capture a story that will be one to remember? Would this compete against other Spider-Man games, even the movies? Like, how did the story overall feel for you? Were you happy with it? And will you
Well,
remember it?
yeah, well, first of all, yes, I'm going to remember it for a couple of reasons. One, you're involving a new version of the Sinister Six. And throughout the game, you are, what sets this particular game apart? The story is paramount. And I say that because it's not just about Spider-Man. It's not about Spider-Man versus Rhino or the Lizard, which is not in it, by the way. He's only mentioned, but it's not that. It's a peek behind the curtain in Peter Parker's life as a person that is doesn't work for the Bugle anymore. But he obviously at this particular point, and this is not really a spoiler. It's really just in the story. Him and Mary Jane are not a thing anymore. They've parted ways. They've broken up because of I guess Spider-Man had a lot to do with it. His after hours activity. He's moved on from the Bugle, so he's not working for J.J. Jameson anymore. And he's currently working with Dr. Octavius, which we all know is Dr. Octopus, eventually. And it is really, really thought-provoking to see what the life is of Peter Parker behind not wearing the suit, because they're really, got to remember, when you think of Spider-Man, you think of the character and his rogue gallery, but you never think about what Peter he obviously, if you read the comics, he's had a really difficult life. His parents were lost, right? We don't know what happened to them. Uncle Ben is obviously passed away, and he's living with Aunt May. Obviously he's had up and down relationships. With Stacy Gwen, who died by the hands of the Green Goblin, and you have Mary Jane, which is supposed to be the love of his life, and now that's not even a thing. So the struggles that they show behind the scenes. Like, for instance, would you ever think about Spider-Man having to pay rent or keeping his house clean? No, you wouldn't. But you get a chance to see that in action, where he actually gets evicted, and that he's homeless because he didn't pay his rent. Yeah, and again, we laugh, but these are the little intricate pieces of story that are normally doled out over the course of a comic's lifespan, over maybe 2 or 3, 4 years, and you get to see all this happen right in front of your eyes. And I think what Insomniac was able to do with Spider-Man is literally make the game feel as if you are playing a comic, and that in itself is just why I would consider it a masterpiece.
Yeah, like I have to touch on that and say, like, I honestly think this game is a masterpiece. Everything you were saying there about playing the life as Peter Parker, like, there's plenty of missions in this game where you actually are just Peter walking around interacting with people. I've seen a few people comment and say that they don't like these type of games, they slow it down too much. I'm here, like, fully glued, fully invested in the story. Like, for me, this is what I want in a Spider-Man game. Spider-Man isn't just Spider-Man, he's Peter Parker also. That's why we like him. We like that he has to go through all these challenges. Well, we don't, unfortunately, he has to go through all these challenges, but it's part of the character, it's part of who he is, how he changes, how he evolves, and just how he looks at things from his point of view. And for them to have that in, like, really does mean a lot. And for people, like, it may not be for some people, might not like that it slows down the story and stuff like that. But for me, that's what I want in a Spider-Man game. And for certain parts in the game, I don't think this is too much of a spoiler to say right now. is that you do play as Mary Jane also for certain parts in the game, and they are stealth sections. And lots of people didn't like them either. I thought they were fine. I did think that they could have changed it up every time you played as her, like to have it something different. They kind of do, by adding some different sort of elements into it. But at the same time, you were just hiding from enemies, and sometimes the enemies could be really silly and not see you, even if you were standing right in front of them, or just sneaking right by them. Where if it was anyone, really, you totally notice somebody kind of right over the shelf, like in front of you, on the counter or something like that. So other than that, like I loved how the story situations of why you were playing as Mary Jane, for example. Like even though the execution was probably a little bit sloppy or wasn't the best, still the story aspect of why she was there, the things that she was doing, and I really did like that you got to play as Mary Jane, and I really did enjoy her character in this game. I thought they made a very likable Mary Jane, and I'm happy with how they went about their whole relationship in this game. The fact that it was something different, they were already in a different situation. They were broken up. They've already been together. We've already seen the movies where they were together, the comics and stuff like that. So I really did like how they went about with changing things, moving things around. They had their own jigsaw puzzle, and they were just making their own story of changing things. And I really liked it. The biggest thing that I did like, we'll get more into later, because it's literally like just one of the things that I'd never thought I'd see in a Spider-Man game. But I'm just going to make a bold statement right here, right now, and say that this game, just to let you know how much I like it, this is the best version of Spider-Man, hands down for me. This beats all the movies. It beats the games that came before it. I was so invested in the story in this game, and this Peter Parker's betrayal, the voice acting, the motion capture, like everything was spot on. It looked perfect, and the emotion, like the parts that they wanted to be emotional, were very emotional. And I don't think I ever got that emotional towards a Spider-Man movie or anything like that. I'm not going to get too much into comics, because I don't know too much about the comics. I did see a bunch of the cartoons growing up, and I have seen all the live action movie versions that have come out so far. And the emotion that I displayed playing this game at those parts was a lot more emotion that I actually had towards any of the other moments in any of those movies or games. And I'm going to remember them a lot more for it.
Yo, yeah, listen, I want to, because there's a lot to talk about. I mean, you can easily say, okay, the game is a masterpiece. It's a 9, go play. But, and I read this on Twitter. A lot of people and you kind of touched on it for a second. I want to go a little further. People were like, well, I don't like the stealth missions, too many of them. Now, again, not a spoiler alert, because you've seen from the beginning, Miles Morales is heavily involved in this, I won't say film, but in this game, because obviously he's a big part of the Spider-Man universe. And there's people like, well, who's Miles Morales? I don't know who he is. Well, he is another version of Spider-Man. He's not Spider-Man, but he's another version, or another Spider-Man, if you will, because obviously if you follow the comics, there's something called the Spider-Verse, and there are multiple worlds, and there are multiple different Spider-Men. In this particular Earth, and I think the Earth that they're on is 818, if I'm not mistaken. That does have a Miles Morales and a Peter Parker. Now, in the comics, eventually Parker dies, and Miles takes over for him as Spider-Man. In this particular tale that they're telling, that Insomniac is showing us visually, is that there's going to be 2 Spider-Men in this particular Earth. And that's good, because Miles Morales is a fantastic character. And I think what was ingenious is, even though we all know how Spider-Man got his powers, we know all about Uncle Ben, we know all about the fight, with the wrestler, we know all of that stuff. But what a lot of people didn't know is Miles Morales's background origin story, and that was kind of it was tucked in there and done with such class and precision that you didn't know if we were going to get a chance to see it, because a lot of missions with him, and I think there's only a handful, where he's not Spider-Man. He doesn't have his powers. He literally doesn't get his powers until like the end of the film. End of the game. I keep calling it a film. It's terrible.
It looks so good. That's why it's so cinematic.
In regards to the motion caption, again, I have taken so many screenshots. If you follow me on Twitter, you're gonna be like, man, this Boom guy's getting on my nerves with these Spider-Man shots. I mean, the last one that I took of Parker out of the suit when he's talking to someone, it's so detailed. It looks real. Like, it looks so freaking good. Again, and I've said this on numerous shows that I have, Sony's first-party games just get it right. They just, again, I understand that a lot of them are the, same old look, but you know what? I'll take that look 10 out of 10 times. And this was again, another example of a well-designed Sony first-party title. And you know what? I think that not only is this going to win a lot of editors' Game of the Year award, I think it's definitely going to be in a lot of the top 3 games of 2018 for many people, including myself.
Yeah, I also want to say, since we were talking about Miles Morales, this is my first, I've known about the character, but I've never seen anything with him in it. So this is my introduction to the character, and I have to say, I loved it. He was really likable. I thought he did a great job. I was really happy every time I got to play as him. Unfortunately, the first time when you do play as him, it's in a, it's in a situation that, you don't want to see certain characters go through. But I think the way they executed that mission, how it played out, I thought it was fantastic. Another great example of how emotional this game can be and how many set pieces that are spread out through this whole game's campaign. Before we do talk a little bit more specifically about bosses and stuff like that, more spoiler territory, like Boom already said, he'd give it a 9 out of 10. I'm fully on board. I don't really do scores, but I can't recommend this game enough. It's a 10, it's a 9, whatever. I'm just saying, buy it, play it, enjoy it. So you already know that we both love this game. So if you're super sensitive to spoilers and stuff like that, I'm just gonna ask Boom to give his favorite boss if he had one. So if you are sensitive to spoilers, we're probably gonna get more into specific with missions and stuff like that and the ending of the game. So yeah, this is probably the time to tune out. We love it. Go play it. If you have a PlayStation, the next time you have money, this is totally a game you should invest time into. If you don't have a PlayStation, Christmas is coming. Hopefully you can get one then.
Yep.
Watch a Let's Play if you can't. Just experience this game at some level, because it's not going to be something you want to miss. So throughout the game, there are a few bosses. The Sinister Six. So we know there's definitely 6 of them. And, you have the Kingpin at the start.
Right.
Overall,
fantastic opening, by the way.
Yeah, fantastic opening. Gets you hooked instantly. It's a great example. It displays the gameplay perfectly, the graphics. It really lets you know what you're going to be in for throughout this whole experience, this journey with Spider-Man. So I was just super curious on who was your favorite boss to play against, because there are a few times you do solo bosses, and then there were a couple of times where you have to fight 2 bosses at once. Do you have a favorite?
I'm gonna say probably one of my favorites was the Rhino was probably my favorite, because you had to, you can't really fight, you can't really punch the Rhino. First of all, he's 10 times bigger than Spider-Man, and he's all covered in armor. But you had to use the environment against him to kind of knock him unconscious or to get him dizzy, and then you beat his ass. I really enjoyed that. But I am gonna say this. There is a hidden boss. Well, Taskmaster is in this game. Again, spoilers, folks. If if you don't want to hear any spoilers,
We've
this is
already
probably
said the spoiler warning is in motion. Anything
yeah.
can be said at this point.
Yeah, Taskmaster, which is notoriously a Captain America, arch enemy, happened to be in this game. His fights I enjoyed. The challenges, especially because they're timed. I'm not a big fan of timed challenges. But on the same note, I still did them because I wanted to finally get my hands on Taskmaster. I am going to say this. The major boss fights really come at the last 25% of the game. Like for the most part, you are just perusing through the story, and it's set up where you're doing, you're saving citizens from like gang members and escaped convicts and kidnapped victims, and you're taking down Kingpin's bases, and while he's in jail, he's in prison, he's still doing the drug trade, so you have to close down his factories. But in regards to the Sinister Six, probably my favorite was Rhino.
All right, and when you're fighting Rhino, he's also attached with Scorpion in the fight.
Yes.
So that's your favorite. All right, so that's good. I also want to say, as Boom said, that you do fight most of the bosses, like all the boss fights other than the Kingpin. And I think you fight Shocker once or twice, I can't remember, but you fight him before the whole end of the game. So he's another boss that you fight solo. My favorite boss to fight, honestly, I think it has to be Doc Ock at the end. Yeah. Just because the emotion was there. Like, while you're fighting him, I thought it was pretty cool. Like, some people probably didn't like how QTE, like, the fight was or stuff like that. I thought it was pretty cool. It looked amazing. And I was fully invested. And halfway through the fight, when he smashes your mask, and he's all like, "You're such a disappointment, Peter," or something similar like that. He says disappointment and Peter. And then Peter just turns around and, like, the expression on his face. And he's all like, "You knew?" Because this whole time, after the first introduction, like when Doc Ock gets him bed up and gives him a warning and throws him off the building, like this whole time since earlier on in the game when he finds out that Peter is supposedly working with Spider-Man, but he already knew from that point that he was Spider-Man. He put two and two together because, he is a genius. So when you're fighting him at the end and Peter realizes that he knew this whole time and he's still willing to kill you basically to get what he wants. And like I was furious and I was annoyed. I was right there with him. I was like, I'm gonna kick the shit out of you right now. And like just from how it starts to how it ends, fully invested, fully emotional. I thought it was amazing. But if I wasn't to go for that one as like the easy choice, out of the Sinister Six, my favorite fight was the one with the Vulture and Shocker. Because I just really liked fighting the Vulture in the sky. Like, I thought that was a lot of fun. Just like swinging and kicking them around. I really like that. I like that in the previous games when you get to fight enemies that are flying. Because I think it's like, you have to try something different. Because sometimes they're higher than the buildings. So you can't really swing too much. I like the challenge and I thought it looked cool. And I also enjoyed the Rhino fight. I liked the solo Shocker fight a lot too in the bank.
Yeah, it was good.
How destructible everything was. Like, literally, he was blowing up everything in that fight. And it was amazing. So, overall, the boss fights that are in the game, even though they're basically all at the end, you're in for a treat when they happen because they're a graphical showcase. The gameplay is amazing. It looks fantastic. And it's up there with, like, all the previous Marvel movies. Like, I think it is anyway. Probably even better in some, especially considering the final fight. Like I said, I've never been as emotionally involved or cared about what was going on as I did with the whole Doc Ock and Spider-Man's relationship in this game that you build throughout the whole game when you're going back and forth doing his missions and just like seeing him struggle and like how invested he is and how pissed off he is. Like everything going wrong in his life because he really wants to get this to work for him, or else like his disease is gonna wreck his body and stuff like that. So he needs to get this. And the second he got that attached to his neck, he was gone. It took over. It damaged his head, and it was just an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, I like I said, it's to me, we know who Doc Ock is, right? I mean, he is one of the more classic villains in Spider-Man's rogue gallery. I mean, he's right up there with Green Goblin. Like when you think of Spider-Man, it's one of those two guys you think of. And what I think Insomniac was able to do, because they took the route of introducing us to an older Spider-Man that's been doing it for already, I believe it was 8 years since getting the powers. So he's had a lot of time. And in those 8 years, even though we knew how Spider-Man got his powers, they were very, very sneaky about sticking, origin stories in there and not really telling you they were going to do that. They did it with Miles, like I explained earlier, and they did it with Doc Ock. You get to find out that, why did he become who he became, right? He's a genius. We know that we come to find out that his body is logistically he has a disease where the nerve endings throughout his body are failing, and his body is becoming more useless every day. We find out towards the end of the game his hatred for Osborn and where that comes from, that they're arch nemesis. I mean, at this particular point in the game, and even through the end, Norman Osborn is not Green Goblin. He's just, he happens to be the mayor of New York City and just a rich, a-hole, what you would expect. But the fact that we get to see the peek behind the curtain of what made Doc Ock who he is awesome. Like I said, we know that he's disease and he alters. In his technology, he attaches something to the back of his head, which obviously, hooks into his brain, and he becomes like a lunatic. And even people like Peter Parker, who he loves like a son, he turns against him. And he was this story at the end of the day isn't just about Spider-Man trying to save New York City. It's more of Doc Ock hell-bent on getting revenge on Norman Osborn. So it's kind of like really split down the middle. And you see the lengths that he is willing to go to get Norman Osborn to not only admit that he did something wrong, but to punish him for it. So it's fantastic. I mean, a really, really well told story, and everything you would expect from a comic book you got in this game.
Yeah, like if someone was to say to me that they would make a game that mainly heavily focus on Doc Ock and would have me fully invested and put him as one of my top Spider-Man villains, I'd be like, you're joking. Because I do like Doc Ock, don't get me wrong. Like, Spider-Man's universe has so many amazing villains. That's what he's known for. He has Venom, Mysterio. He has so many classic villains. And this story with Doc Ock, and because it's so personal, you're there. He's a father figure to Peter after losing Uncle Ben and his actual dad, his family, his parents. And you're seeing how close they are throughout this whole game. And just to see him getting such a betrayal, so backstabbed at the person that he looked up to. He says throughout the game, I worshipped you. I wanted to be you. Everything that you are, I wanted to be. How you care for people, how you don't give up. For him to attach that thing to his neck and literally just give everything up that he cared about, and to literally go as far as trying to kill the person that you call son, poisoning the city. He done some serious dark stuff. And just to see a character that goes from the start of the game as being someone, he does get worse throughout the game as he's going on, but he's really likable and nice at the start. And just as things are getting worse and worse for him, not only with his condition, but with the situation that he gets, because he starts getting disapproved for doing his experiments and stuff like that. So his life is just going downhill, and he ends up resorting to the dark side, basically, just doing anything he can to get what it takes. Because in the end, he just doesn't want to die. He doesn't want his body to go useless, and he's willing to pay literally anything for that. And before, there is the main thing that I want to talk about, the ending of the game. But before I do want to talk about, because I feel like if we talk about that, that has to be like the ending thing, because like no one can top the ending of the game. So
Right.
Miles Morales, you know, in the end cutscene of the game, we get to see a nice cutscene where he's like telling Peter that he's going through some stuff, you know, physically. Like it was a very amusing scene.
It
And
was. It was very comical.
as you'd expect, he jumps. Well, I don't know if you were expecting this per se, but he jumps up on the wall climbing, and he's all like, "This is weird, right?" And then Peter, like, revealing to him finally that he's Spider-Man, jumps up, and you know, I thought it was really nice. So it's been fully confirmed. You know, he got bit at the very end of the game, and then you know, if they were to make a sequel, he's definitely going to be a playable character. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think he's going to be the main. Well, he could be the main and you do play Spider-Man. I don't know which way they're going to go about it. If they'd share 50-50 or 60 Spider-Man, 40 Miles. But he is going to be a big part of the next game because that was a tease and I liked it. It wasn't
Yeah.
the only tease also because they did reveal Harry was honestly, I've watched videos on this, and like I don't know too much about this Black Suit story arc and stuff like that because like,
Yeah, it's a Symbionite suit. That's what it appears to be in the tank. Now, yeah, again, just real quick, if you're unfamiliar and you're still hung around because you want to know about it, Harry Osborn is obviously Norman's son, and he's Peter and Mary Jane's best friend. And throughout the game, you get little quips of him because on top of buildings, him and his mother built like these little labs to kind of help the environment. And it's one of those side missions where you get a suit if you go through all of them. I think there's about maybe 12 of them, maybe 15. So you never really get a chance to see Harry Osborn, and you find out that you know, through a letter, through a story mission with Mary Jane. It's like a stealth mission that he's really sick, and that the Devil's Breath, that is the main protagonist, if you will, that Doc Ock used to poison the entire city, was supposed to be a cure for Harry's condition. And that according to the notes that Mary Jane was able to find, that he's off in Europe doing experimental treatment. Well, if you watch the ending and exactly what Dean was just about to talk about, Harry happens to be in a lab in New York City that Norman Osborn owns, and he's in stasis, if you will. And there's this. I mean, if you're a Spider-Man fan, you know of the symbiote, which came that he got that suit during Secret Wars, the original one. And obviously, he eventually, you know, the suit manifests into being a bad and tried to make Spider-Man a bad guy. He eventually loses the suit, and Eddie Brock, who disliked Spider-Man, gets it and becomes Venom. So at the end of the game, as Dean was talking about, they don't show much, but they show like almost like a black web kind of stick onto the glass, and everyone is assuming that that's the symbionite in there.
yeah, like as I was saying, like I'm familiar with Venom and stuff like that. I just never associated it with Harry, so I don't know like what they're doing there. Like I was totally like, whoa.
Yeah,
Like,
they definitely changed the origins a little bit because obviously, like I said, Spider-Man had the suit originally and it went to Eddie Brock. But this, again, it could be nothing, but it also could be something. The black stuff in this tank with Harry moved.
oh yeah, very quickly at the very end, it shows a push up against the glass to Osborn's hand, and you know it was a great tease, and it does probably show what they have like planned if they were to make a sequel. So we know that the game has like reviewed extremely well across the board. And as far as I've seen, it's selling extremely well and well deserved
Yes.
too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those custom consoles help drive sales. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. FYI, Microsoft. Just saying.
just a jab. You know. So yeah. So the biggest thing that come out of the ending of this game, and this is the biggest spoiler. I cannot say this enough because everything else we talked about, spoiler was yes, it's a spoiler. But this is the one that I think would kind of wreck the game if you know about it beforehand. So I can't say that enough that if you've played the game or you've honestly don't care about spoilers, but I think this was best experience without any sort of knowledge. But I really want to talk about it and hear Boom's take on it. So at the end of the game, when Doc Ock, like I said earlier, he poisons the town basically to get revenge and to get Osborn to admit everything. And during this, when the town's like going crazy, end of the world type stuff, yeah, it's discovered through a cutscene that when Aunt Meg starts coughing, you know, you see blood, and unfortunately she gets sick. And throughout the last few missions, you get to see her. She goes into like a hospital bed, and Peter basically at the end when he's fighting Doc Ock, he's all like this, like he's really in this. Like he can't lose the town, and he can't lose the one person that's still there, and the one person that means the world to him, and that's Aunt May. And unfortunately, even after beating Doc Ock, making the hard choices, getting the cure, we're treated to not only straight after the big emotional fight with Doc Ock, going straight into the cinematic with Spider-Man and Aunt May. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually cried watching this. Like I teared. Like I was not expecting this. And like I had earphones in, like I was just playing this on full blast, and like the emotions were just there. And I was like, they're not gonna kill her. And I think it's the line when she's all like, take off your mask. I want to see my nephew. Like that's when it like really hit me in the fields. Because you know, you find out that she's known for a while, and more likely before the events of this game started. It could have been at some point through it. I'd love to play through the game again just to see her face reactions whenever Peter disappears, to see if it hints at it, because it probably does. But yeah, her death scene really got to me, and I just wanted to give props to Insomniac Games for making a decision that I'm not aware of Aunt May ever dying. She probably did die in some of the comics, like there's so many of them, and I'm just not aware of it. I'm familiar with the cartoons, some of the cartoons and the live action movies that have come out. And so when I seen her die, like I wasn't expecting it. I was blown away. I took, like I said, a tear, and I was like, I honestly thought something was gonna happen last minute or something. You know, you're used to this type of stuff, and
right, it's a comic book. It's a comic book, so you always expect that someone's going to swoop in and save the day.
Exactly. It's like, oh look, there's the Avengers. What were you doing this whole time?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like props, like fully emotional scene, the voice acting, the expressions on the face, like everything was spot on, perfect. The tone, everything they wanted to capture in these final moments, you can't get any better. And I just want to know, like, how did this scene hit you personally, Boom? And were you surprised? Were you spoiled? How did it play out for you?
I was blown away. I got emotional as well. I think this is one of those gaming moments that are rare. Because obviously Spider-Man is a very known character. Aunt May is a big part of his life. And I think that it was extremely bold for Insomniac to kill off a major character the way that they did. I mean, it was done in class. She got sick. I mean, and I think that's what hurt Peter the most, because during that Doc Ock fight, you remember he says, you know, he asks him like, you knew? And he knows that Aunt May is sick. You know what I'm saying? So he knew what he was doing. So when he gets there with the antidote, you know, you think he's gonna again swoop in and save the day. Aunt May is gonna, you know, get the medication and she's gonna be back doing her charity work. And that wasn't the case. You know, when this scene happens, you know, he's talking to a particular doctor that's involved that helped create the the devil's breath virus. And Peter says, you know, how is there enough? And the doctor basically tells him, well, there's enough to give her a single dose or save everyone. And at one point, he's literally inches away from putting it into the IV bag that's attached to Aunt May. And then he stops because he realizes that if he does that, he's going to kill thousands as opposed to one dying. So, I mean, I'm talking about it and I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, like,
it is a powerful, powerful, powerful scene. And again, you know, if you've ever played Final Fantasy VII and a particular character, again, I won't spoil it. I know the game's 100 years old, but a particular character dies at the end of it that you had you were heavily invested in. You were like you sat back in your chair with that like disappointment grunt. And this is exactly how I felt with this. You know, I sat back and I really was taken aback on the fact that they killed her because she's such a mainstay character in the Spider-Man universe. And like I said, it was bold. It was done with class, precision. And you know what? You know, good on them for being able to pull it off.
Yeah, like that's like I wanted to say props for bringing up the whole choice thing. Like I was just getting so invested, like talking about how sad it was. Like yes, it did look like we're either gonna have a choice or like we got to see the struggle anyway that he had to make. And he unfortunately he had to make the choice to begin with. But he made the right one. He saved so many lives. They both did. And like this, like I said it before, and I'll say it again, that this one game has so many high emotional parts throughout it that none of the other games before it or even the movies. The most emotional that I got towards Spider-Man before was recently with Infinity War. And spoilers for that, but I assume people, if you're playing this game, you're into Spider-Man, and you've probably seen Infinity War by now, because I think it made like $2 billion. So I think it's safe to say that Spider-Man was one of the people that faded away with the Thanos snap, and that whole scene was like the first big thing that got me emotional with Spider-Man. Like I was like, oh, that was so sad. I'm saying it now like that, but you know, when that happened, I was really sad. I was like, oh. And this game to have so many points like that was just amazing. Like the death of Jeffers, like the cop Dave, and stuff like that. So props. So overall, the game is fantastic. We both really thought it was amazing. We can't praise it enough. You should totally get it. So we're going to end it here. I do want to apologize for this is my first time doing it, so hopefully it wasn't too bad. It's probably
no, you did great, dude. You did great as a host. Don't sweat it. You did great.
Well, I had a perfect person backing me up literally when I stumbled, even at the start. Like it was pretty bad. But yeah, seriously, Boom. Let people know where they can find you, the shows that you do, and all the amazing gaming stuff you do on your channel.
Well, thanks so much, first of all, for inviting me. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking about Spider-Man. I've been gushing on it, over it on Twitter. I've been playing the game nonstop. I've now finished it. I 100%ed the entire game, and I am 5 trophies away from a platinum, which I will try and sew up over the weekend. Yeah, if you're interested, follow me on Twitter at Mr. BoomstickXL. My DM is open to everyone that wants to talk. And if you want to check out my content, I do daily content, usually not every day, but I do have 2 main shows that are live weekly, one on Thursday morning, which is an Xbox-centric show called the Xbox Factor Podcast. And my co-host, of course, is the Welsh Gamer. We are partnered up for that, and that happens to be, again, Xbox-only show. And then my multi-plat show, where I have new guests each and every week, is on Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is the Breakfast with Boom. That's a 2-hour show. And you know what? I do have an unboxing video that I did live for the Spider-Man Collector's Edition. And, if you're interested, give it a look.
Yeah, so like he just said there, it was a very professional unboxing video. I think you'll all enjoy it. So his link to his channel is in the description box below. I literally cannot recommend subscribing to this guy enough. Boom is amazing. He's one of the best people in the game community. He's completely unbiased. Go watch his videos. Trust me, you won't regret it. So I want to say a big thanks to everyone that joined in. This is something different for the channel, and it's only going to get better because you got to start somewhere. So today is a first step in doing more kind of gaming related stuff on my channel. And I just like Boomstick is a good friend. I've done lots of stuff on his channel already. So there's stuff over there for you to even check out with me on it. So yeah, big thanks to everyone. I hope you all have a fantastic day. I'll see you.
Take care, everyone.